Good day and welcome to this special edition of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Donawa, attorney at law. Once again, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to bring the law and you. Of course, this is a special edition where we feature the Criminal Bar Association's legends of the criminal bar, honoring the lasting legacy of Dana Seetahal Senior Counsel. But before we get into that discussion, we have our new segment where we decode legal jargon called Legal Lingo. Let's get right into it. Of course, in today's episode, our legal term of focus is sub judice. The term sub judice, what is it? Latin for under judgment or under a judge means that once a case is before a court, it is subject to the rules of the court, and public statements or publications about the case may be restricted to avoid contempt of court. This concept aims to protect the integrity of the judicial process and ensure fair trials by preventing undue influences on judges, jurors, or witnesses. And of course, let's take a short example coming right out of the text of one of the daily newspapers. And I quote, Senior Counsel Rajah-Khan also issued a statement saying while he was not allowed to go into much detail of the case, the men accused of killing her, and we will get to that, because it is sub judice. Khan, in his capacity as head of the Criminal Bar Association, said that on May 25th, the CBA will be paying homage to Seetahal. And we got it, Dana Seetahal, at an event in her honor. And of course, we get the term sub judice, meaning that certain actions or certain facts cannot be discussed because it is before the court. And of course, we'll be right back. Stay tuned for more. And welcome back. You're watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Of course, you can stream us on our social media platforms as well as traditional media and our podcast, Strictly Legal with Rondell Donawa. And before the break, we spoke about sub judice, and we would understand during the course of this interview and the conversation as to the context as to why certain types of matters cannot be discussed because it is prejudicial, of course, to the integrity of the trial, which is yet to happen, or rather, which is ongoing. And of course, today we highlight the poignant and significant event in the legal community, and that is the Criminal Bar Association's remembrance ceremony to honor the late Dana Seetahal Senior Counsel. Now, Dana Seetahal Senior Counsel, many of you would have known her, of course, and she was a formidable figure in law, known for her exceptional contributions to criminal justice and her unwavering dedication to the pursuit of justice. Her legacy continues to inspire many within and beyond the legal fraternity. And on May 25th, 2024, the Hugh Wooding Law School became a site of reflection and celebration as members of the judiciary, colleagues, students, and loved ones gathered to pay tribute to Seetahal's enduring influence. And this remembrance event was a heartfelt acknowledgement of her profound impact on the legal landscape. And we had a number of speakers, number of legal luminaries who paid that tribute to her. And of course, we would like you, the viewers, and of course the listeners, to take part in this tribute ceremony. But before we get into the show, I would like to now welcome on set Rajah-Khan, Senior Counsel. How are you? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm fine.
And of course, you are there's so many introductions that we can, so many words that we can say to describe you. But of course, in this capacity, you are also the president of the Criminal Bar Association.
Yes, I am.
Yes? And the Criminal Bar Association, of course, has been clamoring a lot for changes within the legal framework, within the criminal bar particularly. And of course, highlighting the fact that 10 years now, the murder of Dana Seetahal is still fresh within our memories. And the Criminal Bar Association, of course, would have decided to host this event. So tell us more in terms of what was the thinking behind this event, and reflect on how this impacted on you?
Well, the executive of the Criminal Bar Association had taken the decision to honor practitioners at the criminal bar because the criminal bar really consists of practitioners who either prosecute or defend in the criminal courts. And the first person we have decided to honor was Dana Seetahal. There will many others we will be honoring and paying our homage to them. But we decided to honor her in spite of the fact that she is no longer with us. It's 10 years since she has been taken away, and the persons charged for that particular murder, they are still in custody and they are yet to be tried. So we are hoping that with raising certain issues, not discussing the evidence, of course, and remembering her, it will telegraph to the powers that be that they should do something in order to expedite this case, because the accused, they are all presumed to be innocent and they ought to have a fair trial. And that's what Dana would have wanted. In spite of the fact that they are charged of killing her, she would have wanted for these men to have a fair trial.
And of course, bearing in mind that she was also a defense attorney,
Yes.
defense and state attorney at some time, and prosecutor. So therefore, there's a thin line. A lot of persons will ask, okay, so why it is that the criminal bar wants justice when they defend perpetrators of crime? How do you answer that?
Well, what has happened, first of all, the person will become a perpetrator if a jury finds the person guilty. There's an allegation that that particular person committed a crime. And the onus is upon the state or the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the person is guilty. That is, they must be satisfied to the extent they feel sure. And every accused is entitled to be defended by an attorney of his choice. If he cannot hire an attorney of his choice, he'll go through the legal aid system, and he ought to be defended. And sometimes a particular lawyer who's defending will receive a fiat from the Director of Public Prosecution to prosecute. And his duty is to prosecute within the parameters of the law and to be fair and just to the accused, and let the jury decide, or if it's a judge-alone trial, the judge will decide.
Of course. And before we broadcast the particular event, speak about some of the contributors that would have made this event successful.
Well, the contributors who contributed to honoring Dana, first of all, we had His Excellency, former President Carmona, the principal of the law school, Mrs. Samaru, Sophia Chote, who was a senator and a practitioner at the criminal bar, and myself. We made presentations, and it was we were very satisfied in that the convocation hall at the law school were filled to its capacity, and we had judges and magistrates and some students and limited press like yourself were present. And it was a very successful event.
And of course, attending this event as well, it was very moving as well. And of course, our viewers and listeners will get to understand why it was so moving, and the tribute to Senior Counsel Seetahal was so fitting. And I must congratulate the Criminal Bar Association for hosting this event. And I'm so excited to introduce this particular piece of information to you. That's the Criminal Bar Association, Legends of the Criminal Bar. I'm not sure, Senior Counsel, if you want to take the lead and introduce this particular segment.
Well, the legends of the criminal bar, really, you see, the people don't pay attention, the public do not pay attention really to the practitioners of the criminal bar, because there is a subconscious bias that we are defending criminals. And without understanding, until one of their relative or person close to them is charged for a criminal offense, that we have a role to function, to perform. And that role is to assist the criminal justice system in doing justice. Those who are guilty ought to be found guilty, and those who are innocent, although they presume to be innocent in charge, ought to be acquitted. And that is the role that we perform. And the criminal bar is usually the public, a certain section of the public look down at the members of the criminal bar because they are defending alleged criminals. They don't look down at a doctor who is performing an operation on somebody who is a rapist, somebody alleged to have committed an offense and so on. So that is why criminal bar is promoting the legacies of lawyers.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you stateside to the Convocation Hall of the Hugh Wooding Law School, where the Criminal Bar Association honors the lasting legacy of Dana Seetahal, Senior Counsel.
I am therefore pleased to introduce our first speaker to pay tribute to the lasting legacy of Dana Seetahal SC. Ms. Miriam Samaru is a graduate of Hugh Wooding Law School. She has been the principal of the Hugh Wooding Law School since 2008. Please welcome Ms. Miriam Samaru.
Good afternoon, and permit me to adopt the protocols already established. This afternoon, we gather with family and friends of the late Dana Seetahal, Senior Counsel of blessed memory, to celebrate and recognize her profound legacy to the legal profession and more broadly to Trinidad and Tobago and to the Caribbean. Many accolades will be shared about Dana's remarkable academic and professional achievements during her all too brief life, the degrees she earned and the awards that she received. While these accomplishments were hard-earned and deserving of recognition, I choose to reflect on what to me truly defined Dana. Dana rose from humble beginnings to achieve greatness through hard work, courage, and a steadfast dedication to her craft, never allowing the concept of failure to hinder her progress. Although small in stature, she was a giant among her peers, always standing firm in her convictions and never shy about voicing her opinions. Dana was frank and direct, the best ally one could wish for, ready with wise advice, empathy, and support. She was also a formidable opponent. I first met Dana when she was at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and later when she was appointed Assistant Solicitor General in the Solicitor General's Department. Initially, Dana was foremost a prosecutor, so transitioning to civil practice was a new challenge, yet she excelled. Failure was not a word in her vocabulary. And there's a photograph there of the two of us, which most persons wouldn't recognize me. That's when I was a lot younger. She was humble, always open to asking for help or a second opinion when needed. In 1995, she was appointed a tutor at the Hugh Wooding Law School, where she served until 2007, just before I was appointed. She taught evidence and forensic medicine, criminal practice and procedure, legal drafting and interpretation, and trial advocacy during the course of her tenure at the law school. Dana never shied away from additional responsibilities, always finding time to train others, conduct workshops, contribute to conferences, and write for publication. Upon being asked to speak today, I revisited Dana's file at the law school. It contained numerous letters of appreciation for her lectures, her training workshops and sessions, and her newspaper column, which one writer praised her for making sense out of nonsense. Dana truly impacted countless lives. Dana believed in rigorous preparation for her classes and expected the same from her students, expressing strong views on students' failure to prepare. Known for asking unprepared students to leave her class, while this may seem harsh, it was her way of instilling a commitment to excellence. Despite this, students eagerly anticipated her classes, albeit sometimes in trepidation. She stated that my practice is to express strong views for students' failure to prepare, Frankly, I'm not prepared to put up with substandard work. During my tenure, Dana was in full-time practice and immediately agreed when I asked her to return to the law school as an associate tutor. She once confided to me about a student who would sit silently in class and just stare at her, and it seemed to have unnerved her. After I spoke with the student, Dana reported that in the next class, the student was well prepared, engaged actively, and even cited a case Dana had not considered, but which was really relevant to the issue at hand. Dana was pleasantly surprised and recognized the student's brilliance. The student admitted that she was in awe of the fact that her tutor was the author of the textbook on criminal practice and procedure. When I informed Dana that the student's behavior in class was attributed to a bit of heroin worship, she gave her usual whimsical smile, and all was forgotten. Dana was unconventional and marched to the beat of her own drum. At one event, she famously plucked a kaimit, and for those who don't know what a kaimit is, it's a fruit, from a decorative display, declaring, "Look a kaimit, you know, long haven't seen a kaimit?" Dana proceeded to enjoy the kaimit, much to everyone's amusement, declaring its taste absolutely delightful. That was the Dana I knew, living life on her own terms. Even after Dana no longer taught at the law school, she continued supporting our work by offering places to students for in-service training and student placements in the 6-month program. She successfully led a team of students in the Americas round of the International Criminal Court moot, resulting in the award of the Best Prosecutorial Brief by Pace Law School. She was a stickler for preparation, a commitment to excellence, doing the right thing, proper conduct, etiquette, and dress, demanding high standards from our students. On 2 occasions, she had me remove students from her chambers because they didn't meet those standards. Dana mentored many students and was deeply committed to legal education. She was the first graduate of the Hugh Wooding Law School to be appointed the president of the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Since then, others have followed in her footsteps. She was a trailblazer who was never afraid of venturing into the unknown. Dana was epitomized by her humanity, humility, compassion, love for her country and profession, and most importantly, love for her family. She was a source of inspiration and strength to many, including the students she taught at the Hugh Wooding Law School. Dana's legacy lives on in our cherished memories of her and her significant impact on so many lives. Her textbook, Commonwealth Caribbean Criminal Practice and Procedure, remains an invaluable resource in legal education across the Commonwealth and for many practitioners across the region. Her brilliance continues to guide and illuminate the paths of those who seek knowledge and guidance. Ms. Dana Seetahal, Senior Counsel, was an extraordinary prosecutor and defense counsel, a revolutionary teacher, a great mentor, and a prolific writer whose contributions to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean will endure forever. I am sure that you will agree with me that we are all better for having known her. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Mrs. Sophia Chote SC was admitted to practice in 1989. She was awarded Silk in the year 2011. She was also appointed an independent senator in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago in September 2015 and served until August 2020. She has served as president of the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago during the period 2021 to 2023. She has also served as the vice president of the Criminal Bar Association for several years. She's head of the Alpha Chambers and was a close colleague and friend of Dana Seetahal, Senior Counsel. Please, let's welcome our next speaker, Mrs. Sophia Chote, Senior Counsel.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will have to say all protocols observed, if you will allow me. My presentation is going to take up where the principal left off to some extent. But before I get there, I want to say that in 1990, when I was a State Counsel 1 at the office of the DPP, we had a dramatic statement by one of the senior prosecutors to the small group of us there. And Justice of Appeal Brown Antoine might remember it. It was a statement by Ranji Dolsing, senior counsel, who was then either assistant DPP or deputy DPP at the time. And Ranji, in his unapologetically dramatic way, announced to us that based on what was happening in Colombia, which he had been following very intensely, that it was only a matter of time before prosecutors were going to be targeted by the criminal element. And we could not imagine that in our country that one day we would live to see that. But what we thought was dramatic at the time turned out to be prophetic. I cannot speak of Dana without remembering those from the office of the DPP at the time who have passed, and I also honor Ranji's memory today. I decided I would speak about Dana's book and the fact that she was a teacher and mentor to many, because just a few years ago, an in-service trainee at my office who had studied her book came and asked me, well, who was Dana Seetahal? And to be honest, I was a little offended, somewhat shocked, because I assumed that everyone knew who Dana was, what her legacy represented, and so on. But I realized that this young man had not meant it badly. He simply didn't know. He simply knew her through her textbook. So I want to talk about that a little bit today and to tell you how that came about. I also want to make the point that I have to thank the Criminal Bar Association for this commemoration, because it is important for our profession to remember those attorneys with stellar careers. And if ever there was one who had a stellar career, it's Dana Seetahal, Senior Counsel. Dana was the director of the Criminal Practice and Procedure course at this institution, Hugh Wooding Law School, when she realized that the worksheets that she had been teaching from basically, in her view, were insufficient and the students required a more textured appreciation of criminal practice and procedure, not only for their understanding of the law when they were admitted to the bar, but more importantly for her, to understand what other jurisdictions in the Caribbean were doing when it came to criminal practice and procedure. So she decided to request a sabbatical, which she got. And I know what she went through during those years when she was not teaching, because in those days we couldn't do online searches. What Dana had to do was she had to go to source for everything. She went to source to get the legislation for all these territories. She went to source to get the cases from all of these territories. She spoke to practitioners, registrars, and persons involved in the judiciaries of all of these territories. And then she started to put her book together. If you look at her text, it provides comparisons of the legislation of many of our Caribbean territories. It now prepares any student studying that text to practice in more than one territory, and now many are doing so. If you look at the chapter on summary trials, you will see that she uses examples from Jamaica, Grenada, Barbados, and the UK. Look at the chapter on preliminaries to an indictable trial. You'll find references to legislation and case law from the Bahamas, Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago. She was an in-depth researcher, teacher, educator, and learner. After Dana put all of this material together, she understood that this had to be a tool that students could understand. So all the fine points of law that she wanted to make, or she was excited to make, she decided that she would have to cut out or tone down because this had to be digestible for students. And I know I'm competing with that screen, and there are some beautiful pictures up there, but I hope I keep your ear while you look at this screen. And that proved in itself an enormous task for her, to take all this material, condense it, and make it digestible. And then to fill the need that students had really was something phenomenal. And she took on that task and executed it with aplomb. I mean, when we consider the fact that more than 2 decades later, students and attorneys are still using this text, that is an incomparable achievement for someone from our territories. And why did she do it? I will say she didn't do it because she wanted to put it on her CV. Dana didn't do this because she wanted to say she'd written a textbook about Commonwealth criminal practice and procedure. She did it ultimately because she saw a need, and as a teacher, she thought she had to fill that need. And that was quite a noble thing to decide to do and to accomplish so well. She was my teacher, mentor. We enjoyed a lot of fun together. We endured some traumatic times together. 1990, July 27th, Dana took me out of the Hall of Justice with her when the Red House had been taken over, and we from the DPP's office had parked our vehicles in the Solicitor General's car park at the time, and we couldn't get to our cars. So Dana duly told me, well, you will leave with me, and we followed Justice Lionel Jones, who was then DPP, out of the Hall of Justice. And I remained with her overnight. That created a bond, I think, between us, which lasted until her death. Merlin Boy said that we were all cool friends, and to some extent, we were. We remained friends because of that life and death experience. So it was very painful for me when, on the last night of her life, I got a call from Dana. I didn't know that this was her last call. Dana called me on the night before she died, perhaps just a few hours. And the reason she was calling was this. She was always invested in her mentees. I mean, long after they flew away and had their own lives and so on. So Dana called me because this young woman who was in my chambers was about to have her first child. She had been one of Dana's students at Hugh Wooding Law School. Dana hadn't heard from me about the welfare of mother and child. And she became anxious. This is while she's doing this very critical, important case, which is dangerous on so many levels. And she called me to make sure that all was well. And this being Dana, of course, she also had a chat with my husband about the marathon that he was about to run and several other things. And the next call I got was Marcia Murray, former prosecutor, telling me what had happened. So these things, in my mind, make her unforgettable because of the unforgettable experiences that we shared. And I am grateful for the opportunity to share these words with you this evening and to help you understand that if something really defined this woman's life, it was courage from start to finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Chote, Senior Counsel. That raised every pore in my body when you spoke. I am pleased to introduce our third speaker, His Excellency Anthony Carmona, is a graduate of the Hugh Wooding class of 1983. His Excellency worked in the DPP from the time he was called in 1983 until 1999. From 2001 to 2004, he worked as a prosecutor in the international courts. In 2004, he was appointed as a High Court judge of Trinidad and Tobago. In December 2011, he was elected as a judge of the International Criminal Court. In March 2013, he was appointed as the 5th president of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. His Excellency was a close friend and colleague to Dana, and he's here today to pay a special tribute to her. Please give a welcoming applause to His Excellency.
It is my intimate pleasure to salute the judges of the High Court and the judges of the Court of Appeal, the President of the Bar Association, esteemed counsel, senior counsel, Mr. Rajah-Khan, and other esteemed counsels too. So many of them are here today. And of course, my dear classmate, Dana's sister. And it would be remiss of me, of course, if I didn't mention, of course, my dear loving wife, the former First Lady, Ms. Carmona, and my daughter, who in fact is here with us, my dear friend, Sophia Chote, and of course, a former prosecutor in the office of the DPP. And I dare say, Sophia, it was really just mentioning Ranji's name brought back a lot of memories, because I can attest to not only Ranji informing the prosecutors in the office of the realities of criminality, but more particularly, I am privy to the fact that several of us did receive death threats when we were dealing with cases involving Bonnie Brand and Donaldson Motley, Dole Chady, Teddy Mice, and all the notorious criminals of the day. But we never for one moment thought that the day would come when actually something like that would be carried out with vicious impunity. 10 years have gone. Murder most foul. It is a moment like this that leaves one with a staggering sense of loss and even frustration that justice has not been served in a timely fashion, to inspire much needed hope in a judicial and law enforcement system that continues to meander, seemingly aimlessly, more so because some wounds just don't heal. And one such wound is the naked injustice of Dana's passing. Dana's death, Dana's murder, shook the foundation stone of people's faith in what is good and honorable, and laid bare in splinters the moral fiber, the very quagmire of a society in abject crisis. Doing right to others, doing the right thing, and upholding the rule of law, somehow we feel such decency affords a level of protection and insulation from the evil vagaries of life. In Dana's case, like so many of our young men and women, this insulation never materialized. There are individuals that one would meet during one's lifetime, sometimes a flicker of light, and others a constant enriching glow. Dana's defining attribute was that of a consistent enlightening glow. She derived immense pleasure from her job, fashioning a type of perfection in her work and among those who were privileged enough to interact with her. She possessed a unique sense of humor, which diffused difficult situations and facilitated affirmative interactions. As an independent as an independent senator, she spoke her piece courageously, firmly, but with the utmost civility. Referencing the typical cinema in days gone by, as much as she was ensconced in the balcony of the Parliament, venturing sometimes into the House, she never descended into the pit, never denigrating or engaging in personal acrimony. She had command of that diminishing skill and art of debating rather than reading her contributions in the Parliament. Dana was a great teacher and an inspirational tour de force. Ms. Kelly Thompson, Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions of St. Lucia, was a beneficent of Dana's wisdom and sense of direction. You see, ladies and gentlemen, when referencing a person's legacy, we often speak of how they influence people collectively. And the impact of same is sometimes lost in generalizations. And Ms. Thompson, who only yesterday was before the Caribbean Court of Justice defending a conviction and sentence of imprisonment of an attorney charged with a gun offense affirmed by the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal, reminisced to me about Dana in glowing anecdotal terms and how Dana inspired her to no end. And I quote her, "My first interaction with the late, great Dana Seetahal SC was an instructing attorney getting a scolding for not stapling submissions correctly. After the scolding, Dana explained to me that it was important to not cut corners and do the things the right way. I was blessed and privileged to be an instructing attorney engaged in one of her trials. It happened to the very last trial she was involved in. Mr. Rajah-Khan SC was also involved in that matter. It was intense, demanding, and enlightening. I recall, however, about a week before her passing, attending a meeting with her in her office regarding the same trial. There was a quiet moment when we were alone together and the conversation switched from the case to me. She was asking me about my ambition. I told her that my true passion was criminal prosecution, and I was already doing that, doing what I loved. She told me that it's not an easy profession, but keep working hard and you'll get far. She said that she saw the potential in me and that I had it. She also gave me advice that day to be fearless. After her passing, I continued to pursue my passion, always remembering never to cut corners and have integrity. Fast forward to 2019, an opportunity fell on my lap. A job opening as Crown Counsel 3 in St. Lucia. I initially hesitated due to the fear of the unknown and this inner doubt as to whether I could actually do it. I remembered Dana's words and took that leap of faith, and it paid off. I got a job as a Crown Counsel 3 in 2020, and since then got promoted to Crown Counsel 4, and then finally a promotion a few weeks ago to Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions of St. Lucia. At the age 36, one of the youngest females to be a deputy prosecutor in the Caribbean region. I did so by being fearless and never cutting corners. I will be forever grateful to Dana Seetahal SC, and I will carry her words with me forever. End of quote. Ms. Thompson is my niece. And I'm very proud of her, more so that Dana was able to influence and inspire her in a telling way. Therefore, this anniversary of Dana's brutal death must do something. It must wake up the dead in us to make us alive, that the crime stats and rate are not only unprecedented, but hopelessly aberrant, supported by consistent, bold-faced administrative and governmental incompetence, and a slew of ideas where mediocrity of performance has become the benchmark standard of success in this Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot lose hope, and we must not, and therefore, and though gone, Dana's professional life, her actions, commitment, and personal life provide standards and values that can augur individually and collectively for a better quality of life that presently exists in Trinidad and Tobago. We have become an egregious society with no respect for the sanctity of human life, made more appalling by the subsistent, pervasive, and accepted institutional fluff and governance models and philosophies that simply do not cater to the simple needs and basic aspirations of a society to feel secure, safe, and sound. Who is next in this audience? Or on the street outside? Or in some home? Or at another workplace? Whether you live in a gated community, whether you drive the best or you drive the least, you might be driving a Benz or a wet man. Whether your bank account is that fat, that's Mr. Shire's cat, or lean and miserly. Remember in stark terms, as much as you typically hope for the best, you are not safe, you are not secure, and you are at risk. You do have to come out of your cocoon to buy groceries, to go to the mall, or to walk your dog. And one bullet from those high-powered guns can find you directly or even accidentally. For remember, a bullet has no morality of its own. A bullet does not have a brain. It is a dumb piece of metal that finds its target. So grave and startling is this level of institutional indifference and apathy and crime in this country that one is forced to wonder, is this by design? Is it that crime and criminality are beneficial to some or some people? Why isn't there resolute willpower and an unmitigated desire to remove red tape, regressive policies, and bureaucratic processes that hinder the fight against crime? The average man and woman who I have engaged with all my life continue to live in fear and trepidation of vampires passing, as my late good friend Black Starling sang. As a nation, we are told that we are engaged in a war against crime. In our nation's social evolution, fear and violence can create a perverse situation, feeding our insecurities, so the less than honorable in our communities can benefit from the paranoia which restrict our freedoms to enjoy our lives. It was the late Nelson Mandela who said, and I quote, "Courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it," end of quote. And if I may elucidate, the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Dana knew that fear. She lived it, and she conquered it. She knew that we must not allow ourselves to become victims of paranoia. That was not Dana's way or Dana's style. And Dana's death is not the first that we as a nation have had to contend with, striking us in our very heart. Every death by violence is one death too many. And we need to reminisce and remember John Donne, who wrote, "Any man death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind. And never send to me, for whom the bells toll, it tolls for thee." You see, ladies and gentlemen, the parliaments of the world are becoming dysfunctional, even rudderless and purposeless. And Trinidad and Tobago is no different, because Parliament is no longer the refuge of the people, but the refuge of the politicians, where the people's business concerns and afflictions are given short shrift, and special business interest groups and agendas rule supreme. Dana was never about skin and grin politics, never disarmed by pleasantries and courtesies in the Parliament foyer or tea room. Her half grin, some may even ascribe it as a grimace, was a diplomatic snarl that warned emphatically, don't come talking nonsense and fluff with me in the Parliament chamber. She felt, and rightfully so, that the Parliament, the upper and lower house, were about serious business, not showboating, filibustering, mediocrity, or even, it was not a locus for a display of brainlessness. It was always about the people's business. And she made it known in so many words that politicians who are not lawyers are not lawyers. And as such, those politicians ought not to guide and instruct any Attorney General on what the law is or what are the legal responsibilities and duties of government to the Parliament and the rule of law. Socially, I recall that when Dana cracked one of her iconic jokes, she would laugh. And if you did not smile, laugh, or respond, she would give you that nonplussed look, as if to say, you ain't get it? It's basic. For those of us who knew her, that look was one she used with telling effect when she was interrupted to explain herself by another parliamentarian during parliamentary sessions. The look said it all. Dana would look at the parliamentarian, and that articulated in so many words that, hey, my point is elementary. And in the light of the parliamentarian's limitations, obvious as they were, Dana would, with deep humility, and at times even threadbare patience, would go on to explain thoroughly what she meant. I can speak with affirmation that Dana was never part of the cognoscenti and the intelligentsia of Trinidad and Tobago that many times appear to have an unholy alliance with silence. When something was wrong, it was wrong. She never defended wrong because it was convenient to do so. She always defended right. I joined, therefore, with the local and international community in experiencing once more to Dana's family and friends our deepest condolences that justice has not been served in this manner. And the bottom line is, at the end of the day, that I will not and I cannot comment any further on the particular matter that is pending, because I believe in due process in the same way that Dana did. I believe in the rules of natural justice in the same way that Dana did. Because if Dana was alive today, she would ensure that those who stand charged with her offense will get a fair and just trial. And this is what, in fact, we all hope for at the end of the day. So at this time, I simply would invoke the power of Almighty God to grant us all here the power and the vision and the commitment to do right always to all manner of persons in our daily endeavors, in the same way that Dana Seetahal did while she was in this earth of ours. Thank you.
I am pleased to announce our final speaker. Mr. Rajah-Khan, Senior Counsel, is a graduate of the Hugh Wooding Law School, class of 1979. He was awarded Silk in the year 2011. He's the head of Justita Omnibus Law Chambers. He's president of the Criminal Bar Association. He was a very close friend of Dana and is here to pay tribute to her lasting legacy. Please give a welcome to Mr. Israel Rajah-Khan, Senior Counsel.
I first met Dana Seetahal, or Dana, at a pre-carnival fete at Cave Hill campus in 1976. I had arrived at the campus very late because I was coming directly from Canada as a direct entry into the law faculty, and I did not know my colleagues from Trinidad. So Dana was a stranger to me. At that carnival fete, I saw this short, sexy, sensuous student doing an exotic dance, very sensuous. That dance became the Dana strut, which she did for many, many years. So I went up to her and stretched my hand and said, "You're dancing," meaning if you'll dance with me. She just turned around and looked at me and said, "What you think of doing?" And I moved towards her, and she said, "In any event, I don't dance with married men." Now, I got married in December, not a Trinidadian, living in Canada. Arrived about 3 weeks at the campus, and I was amazed that Dana had this information. Dana and the students that she used to line with had this uncanny way of gathering information. Because in April, I was coming to Trinidad, and somehow she knew that. And she said if I could bring back a mat for her, a straw mat, and she gave me the address. So at that time, Lennox Sankansing and I, we were rooming together, came back to the campus, and decided on a Sunday to take this mat to her residence. We knew her residence. The window was ajar, so I stood up on Lennox Sankansing's scooter, went through that window into the bedroom, and I placed the mat, and then climbed back out. About 3 hours after, police came to our place. And he said, I fitted the description that broke into somebody else. And then I started to explain to him about this mat. And he said, why I didn't leave the mat at the gallery? This was about 40-something years ago. We're in Barbados. I said, leave it in the gallery so somebody could steal it. And then he looked at me. And he said, you from Trinidad? So I saw Dana a couple of days after on the campus and told her what happened. She said, you breached my privacy. I said, but I thinking I bought back this mat for you. And I placed it in the bedroom. She was very upset that I entered her bedroom and her clothes might have been scattered on the bed and all these things. And she said, I breached her privacy. She was about 21, 22 years of age. I would have been about 9 or 10 years older than her. Then we came to Trinidad after the 2 years. I just kept away from her for 2 years. But I'll see her exercising and so on, doing judo and all that. And then we became very close. And then she realized that I am only trying to beat the system. I said, well, you know, with all these courses and so on, we could carry a supplemental. She said, what do you mean carry a supplemental? I said, I will only study so many courses. She said, are you going to fail deliberately? You're not going to study? I said, I don't like conveyancing, and I don't like... She said, not what you like. These are prerequisites. You must pass these courses. And Dana started to tutor us. A group of lawyers, Sankas, myself, and a few others. She was a natural teacher. She was a wonderful human being. She introduced that the students at Hugh Wooding Law School, in order to bond, Trinidadians on one weekend on a Friday will make a cook. Then the Bajans will make a cook. And then the Ghanaian students and then all the islands will make a cook. And always getting people together. We had a cricket team, and somehow Dana became a selector for the team. I don't think she knew much about cricket, but she used to be the scorer. And then on the third match, she said to me, like, you all just want to win, but this is not about winning. There are too many Trinidadians on the side. What about the Barbadians and the other students? I said to her, we're choosing people on their ability and so on. She said that the team must reflect a Caribbean team. That all Caribbean people can play cricket. It must reflect a Caribbean team. We went on to win the trophy. But the people who she selected, she had a way of selecting people who somehow, at the end of their career, end up in very powerful positions. Not only playing cricket and dominating. Andrew Burgess became the opening batsman. He batted all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Tillman Thomas bowled himself as being the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. Jeff Comerbatch, I think the acting principal of the law school. Quite a few judges in our Supreme Court and in the Court of Appeal. She had a way of gravitating to people who turned out to be powerful people in our society. So this was Dana, but she was a very humble person. She stayed with me in chambers for about 8 years. And I remember she reprimanding Scotland, Larry Lala, and myself, that when the domestic help is not a wrong, you all must wash your cups and your dishes. That the secretaries are secretaries and they are not domestic help. And she will pull up everybody. She have a way of doing justice for everybody. Many times reprimanding Larry Lala, Scotland and the others for being male chauvinists. That when she is speaking to an attorney, it was just butting. And this is how she carried out her life. So the first time I met her was in 76. And the last time I met her was on the 2nd of May, 2014. Friday. We were prosecuting a case, the murder of Vindra Naipaul Coleman, 12 accused. Myself, Dana Seetahal, and I remember her that Friday, and I said to her, well, see you over the weekend. She's sitting next to me. Peterson's sitting on my left, she on the right. And she is cautioning us about what objections might be made about the case. Well, she was brutally taken away the following Monday. And both Peterson and I at that time thought that she was murdered because of the case. I had made the opening of the case, and I said to Peterson, well, it seems that we are next. Now, I started to get a lot of calls and so on, and pressure from relatives and army to get out of the case. Because we were next. At least we thought so. I didn't make a will, but I suddenly made a will. I think Peterson did the same thing. And we both took the position that our children were all grown up, our mortgage was paid for and so on, that we have to continue this case for Dana's sake and for the country's sake. We were frightened like hell. I was frightened. And then the following week when we announced the appearance, all we had, the instructing attorney, Joy Balkaran, or one of the lawyers, she said that Ms. Seetahal is no longer with us and she would not be in the case. That is all she said. Well, the whole country knew what happened. 10 years have gone. Well, some Judy say, I am grateful for the speakers who spoke before me, setting out Dana's invaluable contributions to the development of the criminal justice system and the rule of law, not only for Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the Caribbean. Yes, I knew Dana from law school. We both graduated and was admitted to practice together in 1979. When I was listening to all the tributes and articles that were written about Dana, many contributions, I myself was amazed as to the body of work she had achieved in her 35 years of practicing criminal law. The principal of the law school, Mrs. Samaru, when she indicated at best that Dana remains an inspiration to all those who study criminal law, and her text, first published more than 20 years ago, remains the best textbook on criminal law in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Further, the tribute by Ms. Chote, Senior Counsel, cemented the position that that textbook is the Bible of criminal practice and procedure. Not only students use that book. Magistrates and judges use that book. Like if it is an archbold, they used it. They always refer to it quietly. Her legacy will live on. It must live on. I join in the tributes to Dana. But more than those tributes, I believe that Seetahal Senior Counsel's lasting legacy needs to be recognized nationally in keeping with her contributions to the jurisprudence of the country and to the criminal justice system by the order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago being conferred upon her, the highest honor awarded to a citizen. I had proposed some 3 years ago that in order for others to follow her footsteps, the Order of Trinidad and Tobago should be awarded to her. It will be a fitting reminder to keep her legacy alive forever. And thus, the Criminal Bar Association snatch upon this opportunity to call upon the powers that be to make that particular award a reality. Again, on this occasion, the Criminal Bar Association, together with the Hugh Wooding Law School, is hosting this event to pay tribute to Seetahal. The CBA has designated a beautiful plaque to be presented to the family of Seetahal. In a moment, we'll have our vote of thanks. But I respectfully crave your indulgence to read the inscription on the plaque, and I quote, Trinidad and Tobago. The CBA pays homage to Dana Seetahal SC, the late legal luminary, for vast and lasting contributions to the legal profession and practice of criminal law, an inspiration to many generations of advocates. She was a commanding voice as an independent senator for legislation and policy development for 3 terms, a tireless champion for reforming the criminal justice system. And for Dana's sake, I remind you of the following sacred words. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to live. And a time to die. A time to break down and a time to heal. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. And I venture to add for Dana's sake, the time will come when her immediate relatives, friends and colleagues, and the country at large will speak out on her behalf for the pursuit for justice for all. But for now, Dana's sake, it is time to pay tribute. And we pay tribute. I cannot really speak out as I want to. Sub judice, they say. Much obliged and justice for all. Thank you.
The Criminal Bar Association, as a small token of appreciation, would like to present the principal of the Hugh Wooding Law School with a token. I will ask the president of the Criminal Bar Association, Mr. Israel Rajah-Khan, senior counsel, to present the flowers to the principal. Most importantly, we would like to thank the family of Dana for allowing us to have this function in her honor. The Criminal Bar Association would like to present a small token marking today's event. If I can ask His Excellency to come on stage, and if we ask Ms. Seetahal, Susan Seetahal, and Cassandra Seetahal to step on. I would like to invite Ms. Susan Francois to say a few words.
Thank you. Dana's legacy undoubtedly includes her contribution to the criminal justice system. But she was, and some believe she still is, a beloved sister, aunt, friend, and mentor to many. And to those persons who she loved, her kindness stood out. I remember Dana leaving her home on several occasions at about 12 midnight to go to the aid of friends and family. And when she couldn't go, but not at midnight, she would call me. And as Sophia said, when Dana told you to do something, you had to do it. She was also forthright. When you overstepped her boundaries, that raised eyebrow, I don't know how many of you know of it, would just stop you in your tracks. And that's what I remember, that lifted, quirky eyebrow. She was a public figure, but simple things made her happy. Running around the savannah, chatting with friends on a weekend, a good lime, and receiving flowers. I like to think of her having a good time with friends who have passed, like Danny Fitzwilliam, Andre Devines, Wendell Kangaloo, Guy Hannes, and I could well imagine the arguments taking place, and Danny trying to be the peacemaker. But a friend of mine also says recently that he liked to imagine her in the other realm, arguing before the higher power, that's what he believed, presenting the case that those people on earth need a resolution. Fix it. And you all know that term, how she said those things. But Dana, we do miss you, and I am deeply honored to receive this token of appreciation on your behalf. But I really can't help wishing that you were actually here to receive it in person. I want to thank the Criminal Bar Association for hosting this event, and to all of you who attending here this afternoon. Thank you.
honoring the legacy of Dana Seetahal Senior Counsel, a legal luminary, a sister, a daughter, a friend. May she continue to rest in peace, and may we get the justice that is deserving. And I mean, I'm speechless, and I want to thank the Criminal Bar Association for their tribute to her, and of course, thanks to Rajah-Khan, Senior Counsel. Senior Counsel, I know that you were looking intently on that on that recording. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I must thank you very much for recording the event and for giving us the opportunity so the wider community and those younger persons who do not know her will know of her. And they will gravitate onto criminal law, especially the women in the country. We have few women in the country, and try to emulate her. But her legacy will live on. It will live on. She has contributed immensely to the criminal justice system and the rule of law.
And we have seen, I know we note in the collage that passed that she met 4 presidents.
Yes.
Yes, 4 presidents, and she would have served, I believe, through 2
Yes.
presidents. And of course, we always looked forward to her weekly column.
Oh,
yes, her weekly articles that really, I mean, and that shaped society, and it even was used as good reference material.
Yes.
For persons who, I mean, either taking exams or who just want to be able to view her contributions in society.
Well, thank you very much for assisting us.
Thank you so much, Senior Counsel. We look forward to the next installment of Legends of the Criminal Bar.
Yes,
Of course, you know, I'm sure we would have one living legend that maybe that will be featured. And congrats, and continue to fight for for justice.
Yes.
And of course, in everything, we always have to remember that one is innocent until proven guilty. And we just hope that justice will always prevail in every circumstance, regardless of your place in society, your demographic. And we just want to have a safe society at the end of the day.
Safe society, yeah.
Right? So thank you very much, guys. It's a wrap. You have been watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Rondell Donawa, attorney at law. Don't forget our repeat as well as our podcast, Strictly Legal with Rondell Donawa. God bless. Stay safe. See you next time.